Hello everyone, my name is Borax and I've been on a mission to play and rate every single champion in the support role. Today we'll be looking at Jarvan 4, and the reasons why he could work as a support include a passive which grants his first auto against enemies bonus 8% current health damage, a Q which deals damage and reduces enemies' armor by 10% at rank 1 and scales up to 26% at max rank, a W which slows nearby enemies by 15% at rank 1 and scales to 35% at max rank. It also grants him a tiny shield, which gets bigger for each enemy it hits, but it isn't really that large. Then you have your E, which grants allies 20% bonus attack speed at rank 1, scaling to 30% at max rank, as well as dealing damage to enemies if hit. If you land your Q on top of your flag, then Jarvan will dash towards it and knock up all enemies he hits. Finally, he has his ultimate, which is point and click and causes Jarvan to jump on top of an enemy and place a circle of terrain around them. Even though he is an off-meta support pick for sure, he has been played in pro play in the past. So, how viable is he actually? Well, let's find out together, as I rate Jarvan 4, the exemplar of Demacia, on his ability to be played in the support role.
Who dares defy my will?
In the early game, I like to rate a support's ability to invade lane and roam. If you started the game off at level 2, Jarvan would be insane at invading as your EQ-CC combo is nutty. But at level 1, all you will have is E, and while it is nice in the sense that you can use it to check bushes for enemies, you won't have any CC at all to really help out starting an invade or preventing one, so we'll give him a F+ for this category. Now let's talk about laning. We like to judge a champion based on 3 categories: poking, peeling, and all-inning. Jarvan is a melee champion, so he shouldn't be that good at poking, right? Well, in theory you would be correct if you were playing him in the traditional style, but the way I play him in the support role is with Aerie, Spell Thief's Edge, and an Emax, where I'm constantly looking for opportunities to drop the flag on top of their head to proc the Aerie, Scorch, and Mana Flow band. It might not be the most damage, but at the same time it's not that difficult to land as it ignores minions, and it can add up over time, which will really frustrate opponents. It's also ridiculously long range, so when they walk up to hit a minion, you should always be capable of hitting them with this ability. If you want to maximize your poke without going in, you can look to throw your Q on them, and then E to maximize damage from afar. But if you want to just maximize your poke overall, your best bet is to EQ forward, then quickly autoing your target to proc your % current health passive, maybe look for another cheeky auto on the other target, then running away with your W, which will shield you a tiny bit and slow them down from chasing you. For poking, I will give Jarvan an A+. It's honestly hilarious seeing just how much damage one little flag with Aerie could do during a lane, but trust me, if you can keep hitting the ability, you will really notice its impact. Peeling as Jarvan is unique, as there are multiple tricks you can use. The first one is of course your EQ combo, which is a solid AoE knockup and dash that can help you get out of tricky situations while also CCing the enemy. If the enemy has used up all of their CC in the initial start of the play, then as long as they are in front of you, then you can both get out of there and knock them up so they can't continue to pursue as easily. He also does have his W, which is handy in slowing foes a little bit and keeping Jarvan alive in the early stages of the game. If the enemy is going hard on your ADC for instance, then you can EQ forward to disrupt them a little bit, then hopefully use your W to walk it out. Now to mention one of my favorite parts about Jarvan support, which is how Aerie interacts with his flag. If you stand near your ally, then you'll be giving them constant Aerie shields, helping them survive in those early scraps. For peeling, I will give Jarvan support another A+. He is a bit squishy early on, so there are chances that you get blown up, and you could miss your EQ combo or have it be interrupted. But at the same time, most fights should be happening where you have the HP advantage thanks to your poke, and better yet, if you have ultimate, you can do the absolute best peeling move of ulting the opponents, then EQing out as they are forced to just sit there sad. Also, you would be a bit sad as having your ultimate for all ins is so great, so let's talk about that now. While yes, Jarvan's EQ combo is a good amount of CC and the armor shred from his Q and attack speed buff from E can enhance your ADC's damage, the fact that you have Aerie makes it so that you want to focus more on poking early on in the lane, because if you go in, you won't be tanky enough to survive and will just get blown up, especially after they reduce Jarvan's already weak W shield. But if the enemy is already lower in health because of your poke, or you're getting a gank from your ally, then you can feel free to use your very good EQ and gauge tools to go in, as you should win those advantageous situations quite easily. Once you reach level 6, then Jarvan's all-in potential just skyrockets, as his EQ passive plus ultimate combo does a fair amount of damage on its own, and while the enemy ADC is trapped, your ADC should be able to finish them off quite easily. I also think that Jarvan is great at tower diving, especially with stopwatch, which is something I always took in my games. For all inning, I will give Jarvan support a S-. He has decent damage, potential AoE CC, and buffs your ADC to enhance their damage. The only reason it isn't any higher is because of his squishiness early on. That means if you do mess up, the engage there is a good chance you will wind up dead. Now that we've talked about Jarvan's laning prowess, let's rate the matchups that you might have to face. I don't think Jarvan has too many tricky matchups, but the ones I can imagine would be pretty annoying are Pyke and Rakan. They have the mobility to get out of your ultimate and are pretty hard to hit with an EQ combo overall. Champions I think can be pretty tricky are the really beefy tanks out there who have good peeling capabilities to counter your kit. You can outpoke their ADC though, so long as you don't get hit by their engage, the lane isn't the worst. The poke versus poke matchups are pretty annoying, but the advantage of Jarvan 4's poke is that it is really long range, so in theory you can stand pretty far back, and as long as you land more poke on the enemy ADC, then it isn't too bad. They will also absolutely hate being ulted by you, as they don't have any way to get out without flashing or using Zhonya's. I think Yuumi is a unique matchup, because if she's on a carry that isn't mobile, then your ulti is amazing as it's a 2 for 1. But if she is on a mobile carry, then it's a 0 for 2, which is why she's a 50-50 lane. Leona and Blitzcrank can be tricky, as they have multiple ways to cancel your EQ escape if they go in on you, so you do have to be careful. Champions I think you can do rather well into are those that you heavily outrange with your E-poke, as you can mess their ADC up or themselves. Even though I hate Morgana so much, her black shield doesn't actually stop your ultimate ability I believe, and if she isn't maxing it, with enough AP you can actually chew through her shield with your E damage and still land your knockup. The rest of the enchanters are a bit annoying with their sustain, but later on in the game, they have the problem of not being able to escape your ultimate without using flash. Two champions I think Jarvan uniquely counters are Zilean and Tahm Kench, as Zilean can be poked down and makes a great ult target, and Tahm Kench can be ulted as well in later stages of the game alongside his carry. Although at the same time, it does kind of suck because I just remembered he can use his ult to spit the carry out of your ultimate, but in the game I played, the lane felt rather easy to play against. Finally, we have a bunch of champions in the who plays these guys even, as I'm waiting to see people play these characters in my games. Let's quickly go over what ADCs Jarvan Support can counter, and it's honestly pretty easy to tell. The best matchups that you have are into immobile ADCs that if you ult them, they will be forced to flash out or die. Then we have a couple of bot lane champions that might not mind being in a confined space, as they can still do a bunch of damage to you and anyone that gets close. Samira can also jump out, I believe, by E'ing through you, which is annoying. Which is exactly why all these ADC champions are a pain to play against, as they can also just get out of your ult. The last champion I have here is Ziggs, because I don't really know if he can get out by using his W, so feel free to let me know in the comments below. Now let's talk about ADCs you want to pair Jarvan with, and the best ones I can think of are those with decent range and love it when the enemy is trapped. My favorite combo is MF Jarvan bot lane, as her E and ult are so easy to land on top of targets that Jarvan has ulted. Another combo that I think is rather potent is Ziggs Jarvan, as you can throw his ulti into your ult and mess people up. The combo that has been used in pro play in the past is Kalista Jarvan, as you can either ulti the Jarvan in so he can get his ulti off, or use it to pull the Jarvan out after he's ulted. But I'm not the biggest fan of this combo, as I don't think Kalista on her own does enough damage to trap targets like other ADCs can. Other champions I think are decent include Twitch, Jhin, Varus, Xayah, and Kai'Sa, as they can follow up on Jarvan's long engage range that other ADCs can't do. But in the hypothetical case your ADC is useless bonobo, then you might want to consider roaming from time to time, so let's talk about that. Jarvan is one of my favorite junglers to play in the game, and that's because of how great his ganks are. As soon as you are level 2, you have access to one of the longest engages in the entire game that can be used to start plays off. He also does a fair amount of damage early on thanks to his passive and EQ combo. Once you get your ultimate, any target that doesn't have their sums up is a free kill ready to be picked up, and for all these reasons, I'm very happy in giving Jarvan a S+ for his ability to roam. If you get caught out, you can escape with your EQ, or even use this ability to sneak around vision and find unique angles to make a play. And it should come to no one's surprise that one of the best early game junglers in the game would be good at roaming. Let's give Jarvan a rating for his ability to support in the early game, which will slot at a S-. He's very capable at everything you want from a support in terms of poking, peeling, and all inning, and while he might not dominate in any of these categories, his ability to roam super effectively makes me confident in giving him this rating. But let's find out if he's able to maintain his positive presence on the game as we take a look at his
By my will, this shall be finished.
In the late game, responsibilities of a support I like to rate include their ability to get picks and to teamfight. Jarvan is a Giga Chad when it comes to getting picks, because as long as you have teammates around that can follow up, there are few champions in the game who can gap close as quickly as Jarvan. Your EQ plus ulti range is just absolutely nutty. The problem though is that as a support, the enemy might just blow you up as you are sitting in your ulti with them, but that's when you use the item that you rushed first, which is Zhonya's, giving you that 2.5 seconds of immunity for your teammates to catch up to where you are and kill your trapped target who will be stuck there for 3.5 seconds. What's also nice is sometimes you won't even need to commit your ulti to get the pick, as your EQ is a solid amount of CC on its own, but the advantage of your ulti being point and click is truly immense. For getting picks, I'm going to give Jarvan Support a S+ in the support role. Good ability to roam around quickly with EQs around the map, followed up with that point and click ultimate, makes him an excellent choice here. I will say though, he could struggle to get picks against targets with loss of mobility, but what supports don't struggle with that? You can also get around that by holding your ultimate until they do use that mobility spell to dodge your EQ combo, then locking them up. Now let's talk about team fighting, where support's responsibilities include engaging, peeling, and sometimes dealing damage. Jarvan has been a dominating presence in the pro scene, so much so that he has 2 World Champion skins, one from the very first season, as well as a Victorious skin, and he's still being picked and banned consistently in pro play. And to me, the reason for this is simple. His point and click ultimate is one of the best and longest engage tools in the entire game when combined with his EQ. In the support role, it's really no different except for the fact that you're insanely squishy, but thanks to the item Zhonya's making you literally invincible to damage, you can really get around that downside and hopefully get off one more EQ before you die, further knocking people up. With Jarvan ult, you can combine so many other abilities like Rumble ult for instance, turning a fight into an instant win for your team. The biggest problem with Jarvan's engage is if the enemy team has a ton of peel that can prevent your allies from following up on the play. So, you do want champions that will be capable of jumping in with you with their own mobility, or ones that have long range. For engaging, I will give Jarvan Support a S+ rating, because not only is it super potent, but it's also really easy to execute, and as long as your teammates are ready to follow up on the play, it should go well for you. Truthfully, even though Jarvan is insane and engaging, if your team is rather behind, then you might be forced to peel more when the enemies are trying to engage with their lead, as if you get the perfect engage, it won't matter if your teammates don't do any damage. Thankfully, Jarvan is decent at peeling, as you have your EQ to knock up enemies, and its long distance helps you to react to plays more quickly than others. Then, you also have your spicy build of Moonstone Renewer's second item, plus the Rune Airy, meaning that you will be granting your allies consistent shielding and healing with this combo, thanks to your E proccing Airy a bunch of times. While it is admittedly not the largest heal or shield, it does add up over time, and as getting one shot is a little less frequent, Jarvan's ability to peel in my opinion is a solid A+ in the support role. After all, you do still have that tiny slow on W I haven't even mentioned, and the possibility to use your ult to help peel your carries, making him very versatile here. The biggest downside of his peel is against long range poke champions or really fast DPS threats that might be able to dodge your EQ and do too much damage through your Airy and Moonstone. In terms of dealing damage, Jarvan is interesting as he himself does a bit, but he is also enhancing his allies' damage with the 26% armor shred from his Q at max rank and the 30% bonus attack speed aura from his E. While not the greatest buffs, they're still decent, and when combined with the 8% current health damage that he is doing on his first strike against opponents, I'll give him a B+ rating here. It's okay, but not his strong suit for sure. Before we rate Jarvan's overall ability to support, let's take a look at the runes and items that I would recommend. In theory, you could go for a tanky Jarvan support build with Guardian or Aftershock, but in my opinion that just completely removes your ability to poke in lane, and you'll never be that tanky truthfully, so you'd rather just have Zhonya's, which will make you invincible for a bit. So, the best rune option is Airy to enhance your poke, as well as the constant shield proccing you can do thanks to how your E works, and it lets you build Moonstone Renewer. For the rest of the tree, I take Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, and Scorch. Secondarily, I like to take Perfect Timing, as it helps you build towards that Zhonya's while giving it to you for free one time. I also took Biscuit Delivery, as Jarvan Support does have a bit of a mana problem when you are constantly spamming out those flags. Now let's talk about items. For a gold income item, I think Spell Thief's Edge is your best bet, as you can proc it quite easily with your E, and it gives you more mana sustain. Then, after picking up tier 1 boots, I usually like to rush towards the Zhonya's as quickly as possible, because the faster you can get this item, the faster it means you can look for big engages with your ultimate ability without dying thanks to the stasis effect. After completing Zhonya's, I usually finish my boots, and I commonly went Ionian Boots of Lucidity to allow me to spam more E's during fights, meaning more Airy procs. Then I would build your Mythic of Moonstone Renewer, as the item is relatively cheap, and you do utilize it well thanks to your E, as it grants you stacks of being in combat while healing your allies a little and enhancing your Airy shield. Normally by now many games will be almost over, but if not, the final 2 items that I think are decent for Jarvan support are Chemtech Putrefier against enemy teams with a lot of healing, as this item will be solid with your Airy, or you could finalize your build with a Redemption to further enhance the amount of healing and shielding you can provide. Now that we've talked about the runes and items, let's give Jarvan an overall rating for his ability to support, which will slot at a S. I never lost a game on Jarvan support, and it was a ton of fun to play. In the past, it was even played in pro play, and I genuinely think that there's still potential for this champion to be played at a high level. I do think that his laning phase is the weakest part of his gameplay, but if you are able to land enough of your E poke, you can easily win a lot of the lanes that you are in. When would I recommend you play Jarvan Support? Whenever you have a decent matchup that you believe you can do well into, and the enemy team doesn't have too many champions with dashes that can get out of your ultimate ability. He can be a super turbo pick, especially with other champions that want some sort of engage that they can throw their big AoE spells into, like Victor, Anivia, Rumble, Ziggs, Misfortune, and other champions like that. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would leave it a like, that would be amazing. And if you consider subscribing, that would make my day. Again, thanks for watching. I want to wish you good luck and have fun if you're playing Jarvan Support yourself. You might need it.